But I knew after CJI won, a lot of people would copy our format. UFC obviously copied the format, but I wanted to mix it up and showcase another side of grappling, which was this team format. CGI 2, the plan was always to do something different. Like, we already proved that was the best. People are copying it. Great. This year, we're going to showcase how exciting the team's format is. There's no greater spectacle than when you see like a Fabricio Andre face potentially a Nicky Rod. The UFC seeing CGI 1 and doubling down on copying it and really pushing into the sport. It is a bit of a hindrance because we do lose people like the Tackett brothers, but it is what it is. As long as those boys are getting paid, power to them.
Greetings, Jiu-Jitsu nerds, and welcome to another episode of On Borrowed Time with Craig Jones. And yes, this episode is with Craig Jones. It is the return. We do a digital interview, although it could have been in person considering I had a layover in Istanbul and he's currently in Istanbul. But then I remembered that he's recovering from sickness in Ukraine. And also he invited Mitch Mitty, the owner of Oscar and Frank, who's a proud partner of CJI. And I figured it'd be better to just let them have their alone time and have some consultations on their hairline appointments over there in Turkey. But we still have a great episode because we do break some news about Team New Wave. And at the end, we will also talk about the third member of the 100K women's tournament coming up at CJI 2. Craig is officially heading out on a cross-country tour, which means a new city every day, long drives and late nights. By the time he's going to get to these hotels, he's going to want something to eat, just like I do right now. And that's where this video sponsor, DoorDash, saves the day. Whether you're at home or on the road, it's easy. Just open the app and food is at your door. Dinner or late night fixes, DoorDash has you covered. Use code BTEAM50 to get 50% off up to $10 on your first order of $15 or more. Well, it is hard to track this man down, but we finally got him. I believe he is in Istanbul. I'm in Spain. So, Craig, after all the traveling that you've been doing, how is life? I know you were just in Ukraine, so a lot of mental warfare going on there.
Yeah. Oh, we'll probably bleep that. But yeah, obviously exhausted. Being in Ukraine definitely takes its toll on you. We're getting bombed all the time. We had some near misses. A lot of air alerts and stuff, but the European seminar tour was raised to raise money to give to my friend Roman. Roman's one of us, jiu-jitsu black belt. He wasn't living in Ukraine for 8 years before the full-scale invasion started, and he left a happy life in France, running a pizza shop, training jiu-jitsu every day to go back and protect the homeland. So, I went to Ukraine for the first time last year, and I did a charity seminar there, and he had commented on my charity seminar post, basically being like, yo, so many of the soldiers train, we can't get to Kyiv whenever we want. What about the boys on the front line? And I was like, well, I'll come see you on the front line. And then we just sort of created this sort of strong friendship. And I felt like quite an attachment to the Ukrainian people, politics aside. I know it's a very political subject in America, but it's just, once you meet people like that in those circumstances struggling, and they are struggling, it's like, I felt like I owed it to him to go back and help. I mean, obviously, it's costing so much money, that war, but if I can contribute and help out my boys in any way. So that was the goal of the European seminar tour, was to raise money personally. I don't want to be one of those people that just tells people, oh, donate, but they actually don't do anything themselves. It's kind of the reason we're involved with the Guardian Project too. It's one thing to tell people to donate money to cause it, another thing to actually donate your own money, your time. So that's kind of what my mission has been. Obviously, we're helping friends, but helping anyone we can with this platform.
On the European seminar tour, it looked like you were teaching a lot of people some octopus guard, but Roman showed you a different strategy on how to defend that buggy choke. So are you guys going to be teaching that as well?
Was that the second? That might have been the second trip to Ukraine. So I've basically been to a lot of Ukraine. I would say Kherson was crazy. That particular one was done in a village that was occupied by Russians, and Ukraine took it back, and it's been completely destroyed. And when we filmed that video of the buggy choke defense, we were being bombed, and there were drones overhead as we speak. So we had to quickly get out, film a funny video. But I mean, that's what we'll do in the name of content, right? And that's something else I think people need to remember about this whole Ukrainian war experience, right? Is that like even the soldiers on the front line, like they're trying to find any opportunity to have fun. So like when people say, "Why are you there?" It's like, well, I'm coming over there trying to bring some positive energy, being the idiot I am. Like everyone needs an escape. Obviously, Kyiv got bombed very badly the night before I arrived, which was, I think, sadly, like 14 or 28 people died. Like it's been getting hit quite heavy right now. So even the people in Kyiv, like they're living their lives. They're trying to go about their day. Like a lot of people be like, how are they at war? Like, look at these people having a good time. Of course, no matter the circumstances you're in, you're going to try and find a way to have a good time. It doesn't mean that like when you're in a quiet place alone or when the bombs are hitting, you're not in absolute anguish and emotional turmoil. Like it's like I'm obviously risking my life to be over there. But again, like when you meet people living in bad circumstances, especially the men of Ukraine, they can't leave Ukraine and they are getting conscripted to go to battle. So for me to go visit the country, if I'm not going to go to the front lines with the boys putting their life on the line, like I feel like it's sort of disingenuous and it looks like I'm just over there chasing clout. But like I've been to Kharkiv, Kherson, Kramatorsk. I went within Kherson maybe like a river's length, the Dnipro River. That was the distance I was from Russian soldiers. So it's like again, like some people might look at it look like clout chasing, but at the end of the day, I'm just there to help my buddy out. And he's been fighting for 3 years. He didn't have to go back to Ukraine. He was already out of Ukraine. He enlisted to help his family. His mum still lives over there. So it's like they're trying to protect their land. And obviously, what I can contribute is minuscule in comparison to what foreign governments can. But at the same time, you got to help your friends out wherever you can. So the European Seminar Tour was raising money. I gave all that money. Well, I gave it as much as I could to my buddy Roman, and that's going to help his battalion with whatever they need. That doesn't necessarily mean buying drones and weapons and stuff. Like that's whatever they need. They, typically speaking, one of the biggest expenses that isn't covered for them is their car. And you can imagine like they have to drive on roads that have been destroyed. So they're hitting potholes, destroying their car constantly. So car repairs for even a battalion is a huge thing for them because it allows them to escape. That's the vehicle they take to escape the front line for their downtime, So like if they don't have a car, they can't really leave the military bases. So even car repairs go a long way to keep the spirit up of these guys. And obviously I want to talk about it, but yeah, definitely some of the stories of what these guys have had to go through it's pretty horrific. So it's been a rough 2 weeks. Not a lot of sleep. I got sick out there too, unfortunately. But yeah, we were getting bombed every night in Kharkiv. I remember one of the nights I thought there was a mosquito in the room, but it was a Shahed drone flying overhead, and I looked out the window and they were trying to shoot it down and stuff. Yeah, so it's all around pretty heavy experience, but ultimately I'm there for my boy. I'm there to support any way I can. But yeah, for me to do a seminar run like that, like I love seminars. I love meeting jiu-jitsu people, but it's an overwhelming experience, like in terms of energy draining. And it's probably bad timing to do this trip given the CGI preparation. And I'm trying to make phone calls to Seth at the same time, different time zones and stuff. And obviously sometimes we're hiding out in bunkers. The cell service is not very good. But we're now in Istanbul before we begin the USA road trip. I just needed some downtime, some mental before we go ahead into CJR.
Yeah, no, the video of Roman crying when he heard that you were going to come and everything that you did with him was so heavy. We're so happy that you're safe. You're in Istanbul now, reunited with Aaron, the best videographer in the world. And there's going to be more Road to CJIs coming. So we're super excited for that. Obviously, when you've been out and about, there has been so much news in the jiu-jitsu world, but a lot of positive things. We had AIGA, UFC BJJ during International Fight Week, and just a lot of news around the jiu-jitsu world. And I think a lot of people might have a misconception about what your perception is of all these different opportunities happening in the jiu-jitsu world. So I guess let's talk about UFC BJJ first, because that was the one that a lot of people were feeling like, oh, Craig is bitter about this. But I think from your perspective, It was awesome to see a lot of familiar faces that were also on CJI, the rule set, the setting that they had being used and having success with it. So what was your overall perception of UFC BJJ and the finale that happened live and free on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm going to have an emotional response when somebody copies you without credit. There's going to be an emotional response. That's my own personal feelings, given I credited the 10-point must system. I credited the pit. It was kind of me combining everything I'd seen work in jiu-jitsu in isolation and putting them together to come up with what I believed was the most exciting rule set for jiu-jitsu. So obviously, I'm going to be emotional when the UFC does copy it without crediting some inspiration. That's going to bother me. Um, but really, ultimately, like, I didn't get in the promoting game, the promoting business, to be a promoter. Like, I don't think people realize how much work goes into that and how it is ultimately rewarding if everything goes well, but there is a lot of pressure on you. I got into it to get athletes compensated. So I'm wholeheartedly not invested in this promoting business. I was just wanting to get athletes paid. So if the UFC comes in, copies what I did, and adequately compensates athletes, awesome. That's great. That's great. Like if the boys are getting paid, if the athletes are getting paid, that's sick. If they ultimately do become a monopoly like they are in MMA, but the guys are getting paid and they're happy, they're getting the exposure, they're getting everything they want, that's incredible. I think that is a bit the UFC might have started these exclusive contracts a bit too late in the game because unfortunately, like Dana would always talk about boxing and why boxing's broken is because like this promoter owns these athletes and they don't fight. And that's kind of what I'm really a bit worried about now is like I loved that the ADCC provided an opportunity where guys that are already signed to events like One and Flow could meet and they'd meet every 2 years. CGI were trying to do that once a year to put on some crazy, exciting, free event of which any profits we make goes towards building jiu-jitsu schools for impoverished kids around the world. So like for me personally, I was happy really to see the exposure these guys got. Like obviously some of the views and some of the comments were a bit suspicious, but yeah, for me, if the UFC take the reins, go nuts, enjoy it. It's great for the sport. If CJI served its purpose to create a great, exciting rule set to grow the sport, and someone else wants to come in and take the reins and pay those guys, by all means, go for it. But like, what concerns me now is the greatest match jiu-jitsu history: Andrew Tackett versus Cade Rotolo. Cade Rotolo signed to one championship, despite Techi taking a cheeky fan photo and implying that Cade could do UFC BJJ 2 against Andrew Tackett. Despite him doing that, that's disingenuous because Cade is signed to one in UFC are rivals. So now Andrew and Cade Part 2 cannot happen unless one of those guys signs to the other organization. But obviously, if each of them are happy in their current organization, we are robbed of that match. Like I always think about the dream tournament. Mika Galvao signed to Flo, Joseph Chen's a free agent. Like Cade, Andrew, Joseph, and Mika Galvao would be the ultimate four-man tournament. I think almost the pound for pound. It would decide the pound for pound best grappler right now. So like my stress is that the UFC currently for MMA is where the best fight the best. Had the UFC invested in the sport of jiu-jitsu and signed a bunch of athletes a long time ago to these exclusive deals, then UFC BJJ would have the best fight and the best. But unfortunately, one kind of started this in terms of exclusive deals and really mixing MMA with the grappling events. Flow Grappling have always ran their WNOs or broadcast at other events for a long time. So I just think we're at a crucial moment in the sport where, although we have these events that are going to get mass eyes on them, we might not have the best fighting the best. We might have mismatches, and CJI or even ADCC is a great opportunity for guys signed to these events to be able to compete. One always had a clause where guys could do IBJJF for ADCC. I worked incredibly hard to make it so that one would allow their athletes to do CJI. Shatri, props to you. Props to Tom DeBlas, who you just had on. As it stands, Flo and One are happy for their athletes to do CJI. We're not a competitor. we're one event per year. It's free on YouTube. We're giving the money to charity. We're trying to grow the sport in every sense of the word, from the third world up until the most professional level athletes. So like the UFC really rubbed me the wrong way, because I don't think we're going to have any UFC athletes participate in our event. And again, obviously there's an emotional response there, but yeah, if they do take the reins, they do a good job and they pay everyone, power to them, That's great. That was our goal to begin with.
Okay, there was a lot to unpack there. I want to start off with part of the comment that people, it might go over their head. You're like, there is some suspicious comments and different things on their UFC BJJ. Let's just focus on the finale. I think what you're talking about is all of the bot comments. So that's kind of showing that they might have paid for views or comments. My question is, why would they feel so pressured that they have to buy views and comments? Like, do you think it was one of those things where they were feeling pressure from people above them saying, oh, if it doesn't hit this number, we're going to have to rethink this whole entire UFC BJJ thing? Because if they broadcasted it on the UFC platform, UFC Embedded with Sugar Sean O'Malley got around 736K views. And all the comments are authentic MMA fans commenting on Sugar Sean. But UFC BJJ, 1.2 million, and half of the comments are, thank you so much for this post. It was, thank you for explaining this to me. And there's just a bunch of different fake bot comments. So what do you think was the incentive for them to buy views and likes? Like, don't you think that it would have performed well without all of that, considering the cast was really good, it was a really fun action? Like, they didn't really have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, like, and this was pure speculation, right? There could have been 1,000 people write the same comment. We don't know for sure from a liability perspective whether they did or not. That's if they were to have done that, that's one aspect that bothers me too, because like, as an athlete myself, I'm always looking for leverage in negotiations. We want to know what our true value is. So CJI, we didn't buy any views. We didn't buy any comments. You can do that. You can do that in a sneaky way. That helps you secure sponsors for your event, right? It's going to make you personally more money. But like, what I really wanted to do was show how many people watch these events, right? Because again, like, it's not in Flow Grappling's interest. It's not in Fight Pass' best interest. It's not in any broadcaster's best interest when something's behind a paywall for you to tell whatever you're hosting how many views they get, because that brings a lot of leverage to the negotiation table for the other party, right? So like, part of me showcasing the true views of what grappling can do was to put the power in the athlete's hands so they can walk over. Like, I remember Fionn Davies versus Mackenzie Dern was a huge peak. You can look at the stream and you can see the peaks and valleys, and that's great for the athlete to negotiate contracts for themselves. And Fionn, I'm sure, got compensated quite well. And part of that, I imagine, like, as a promoter myself, like, I would have looked at what Fionn Mackenzie Dern did and been like, wow, Fionn's a huge draw, which, I mean, personally, I already know she is, which is why we wanted her in the show. She's also a good voice in the sport. But if people were to inflate views or inflate comments, then it kind of does take a bit of the power away from the athlete, because then the promoter's going to be like, he's not going to take into account. Like, if you as an athlete go, well, look how many numbers we did, and those numbers aren't entirely accurate. I also feel bad if like if sometimes you see these comment chains and you're like, obviously that's not real. And then the athletes are like, oh, we did 1 million views, and they're posting it on socials. Like, obviously it feels really good for them. But if you were to have that bubble burst and realize that it's not entirely accurate, then that would hit a sore spot.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it was done to be able to like make that graphic online so that the public perception is like, oh, it really hit great numbers. And then another part of me is like, okay, a big part of their negotiation scheme is to talk about the exposure. And so I just feel like it's good to be honest with the athletes about what your actual viewership is in the comments, so that they don't try to use that in like a negotiation perspective of like, hey, we're going to get you all this exposure. But very interesting. If you guys want to check it out yourself, just go to UFC BJJ, the finale, and you can kind of look through the comments yourself. But another thing that you brought up is one of the stories that you put up. basically about the dream bracket that you would get: Joseph Chen, Mika Galvao, Andrew Tackett, Cade Rotolo, and how we can't get that. But then you also followed up in one of your stories: UFC offered me 6 figures to coach and compete against Mikey, but would have been fully exclusive. This sport is now entering an era where athletes won't be able to compete in CJI or ADCC. And one final annoyance: until I formally declined coaching UFC BJJ show, their athletes could compete in CJI. So I think that last part is the interesting part, that this war wasn't really started until you as a professional said, this contract isn't good for me. And now you're trying to walk away from that. And now there's all of a sudden some conflict.
We've been talking to the UFC for a long time, and no NDAs were signed, nothing was signed. You know what I mean? Like, they're a smart group of people. Hunter Campbell, obviously, I think he really is the brains behind the UFC these days. Like, and he's a very smart, shrewd businessman and lawyer. So, like, most of these conversations, they're just phone call conversations, right? But, like, really, like, what we're trying to establish early is the CJI an enemy or a friend of the UFC? If we're a friend of the UFC, that we're going to be able to kind of work together on these things. But yeah, they did want me to be, as far as I know, pure speculation here, but speculation was that it was going to be Gordon and Mikey. But Gordon is pursuing politics and doesn't want to compete anymore. Also, like, those health problems could be legitimate. Who knows? I don't know. He's opened Kingsway, so, like, we've got another powerhouse gym in Austin, right? So he's busy and he didn't want to compete against Mikey Musumeci. Like, is he scared of Mikey? No. Like, obviously, Gordon's probably the best ever. Mikey's incredibly talented. There's also a massive size discrepancy there. So the second choice was they came to call me to jump on board, and they offered, I won't say the number, they offered a decent amount of money to do it, but really, like, in terms of the commitment, it was a week of filming, and then I'd have to cut my plans to help my buddy in Ukraine. So there were a few factors going into why I wouldn't do it, but it will also be quite a restrictive contract. And I'd love the power of being a free agent. Not everyone has that power where they can market themselves. They do rely on the organization to market them. I mean, honestly, that's kind of why we started the B Team YouTube channel to begin with. We want to be able to market ourselves without reliance on organizations. So yeah, we had conversations where there was nothing in writing, nothing official, but for a long period of time, their athletes were able to do CJI. But when I did formally decline the offer, I asked for too much money, apparently, right? They went with Harrison Gabriel. And props to him. That's a great opportunity for him to get in there. And I did watch his match with Mike. He did do quite well defensively. That was a big jump for a man that hasn't had much nogi experience. But yeah, they afterwards, like, they really did block their athletes from doing our event. And one factor was that after I formally declined the offer, when they were discussing with athletes, which they left really to the last minute, some of the athletes on the show knew for 3 months, some of them knew for 3-4 days. So any athlete that they spoke with that said they were participating in CJI, they weren't put on the show. You basically had to make a choice. And also, like, I won't say who, but I did sneak a peek at some of the text message conversations between the producers of the show and the athletes themselves. And yeah, like, if you were to participate in the show, it would be, you could not do CJI. And again, I do understand that if you're investing in an athlete and you're marketing an athlete, it is a liability for you to now allow that athlete to go compete for another event and risk losing to someone from another organization or risk getting injured. And again, that's why I give props to Shatri and Tom DeBlas, because if we look at it, Cade Rotolo won the million. Ty Rotolo competed, got injured. He had a serious knee injury. But that did not scare them out of allowing their athletes to compete again. It's an athlete-first mentality. You know, like, I think this year I wanted to – basically, we did the teams event, right? Because for me personally, Quintet's the most exciting grappling event that's ever existed. It's the most fun. It's the most exciting. You see all these wild matchups. People aren't scared to lose because, like Polaris on the weekend, you know, Helena won 3 in a row and then lost, or potentially lost. I think she lost one match too, but she's already been out there banging away at multiple matches. So, like, really, like, I wanted to showcase another exciting format in terms of leverage for getting athletes involved in our event. The appeal of $1 million individually versus 1 million shared amongst the team is not as strong here. But I knew after CJI won, a lot of people would copy our format. UFC obviously copied the format, but I wanted to mix it up and showcase another side of grappling, which was this team format. So really, like CGI 2, the plan was always to do something different. Like we already proved that that was the best. People are copying it. Great. That's kind of becoming the unified rule set for jiu-jitsu, which is something that a lot of people criticized that we lacked, was that every organization had different rules. But yeah, this year we're going to showcase how exciting the teams format is. There's no greater spectacle than when you see like a Fabricio Andre face potentially a Nicky Rod. So like I love that we are mixing it up this year. I will say though, with the UFC seeing CGI 1 and doubling down on copying it and really pushing into the sport, it is a bit of a hindrance because we do lose people like the Tackett brothers, but it is what it is. As long as those boys are getting paid, power to them.
Yeah, and you brought up how important it is to push the fact that team events are really exciting as well. We just had AIGA and Polaris squads this past weekend, and they both delivered. Let's talk about AIGA a little bit. You brought up the Tacketts. Both of them were originally on Team Kasai, who ended up going home with that $500,000 first place grand prize. So if you were in their shoes, what would you rather have experienced? Doing capoeira in the UFC Bowl or getting your share of $500K? Because they definitely would have also won if Andrew Tackett was on that roster.
Yeah, I mean, like to have the Tackett brothers in your team in that AIGA event, like the Tackett brothers were involved in the two previous AIGA, like the qualifying events for the teams. Like obviously the teams shuffled around a bit.
They earned their spot, yeah.
But they had to basically sit out on the finale and the grand prize. Who knows? Like I imagine Richard Byrne, who runs up Kasai, probably compensated them a portion of that prize either way, but yeah, definitely probably not as much of the split of that 500K if they had participated in that event. So that's kind of like the crux of my problem here. A lot of people think it's just me being bitter and me not being the face of everything, and it's really is that I just don't want athletes to miss out on opportunities in this sport, and that's really what's at stake here when someone has an exclusive contract and the promoter isn't willing to allow them to participate in these events, especially events like they were in the team for the first two and they missed out on the finale and the grand prize. And yeah, I watched all 3 or 4 of their events, whatever. And then my Kazakhstan boys that I've spent a lot of time with and stuff, that was a phenomenal event. Props to Tooligan. The finale delivered beyond belief. I will say that I was a bit skeptical of how good the finale would be because I think some of the qualifying events weren't maybe as exciting, but the finale really delivered. And that's a testament also to when there's a lot on the line, a lot of money, people will fight hard. The only thing I could say is would have been more exciting in the pit. There are a few resets, you know?
Yeah, the dual format definitely makes it last so long. So I'm kind of excited to see how the quintet will do. Like, I feel like it won't be nearly as long of a day. I do want to, before we wrap up on the UFC BJJ stuff, there was a post from the former Karate Combat president, Adam Kovac, and he basically said the UFC does not want to promote fights anymore. They want to own the entire fight ecosystem. And when I spoke to some of the fighters that are involved in CJI, like Marcin Machulovitz and Luke Griffith, who is going to be on this episode, we're going to be talking to him next. Marcin basically said he chose CJI because it feels good to be on the right side of history. And when I asked Luke about what the potential of exclusive contracts could do to the sport, he said it could be potentially detrimental. So for you, what is it like being able to see some of these big name athletes choose CJI because they think it is what is best for the sport?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously heartwarming, and it's also a lot of faith in me. Also a lot of stress and pressure, you know what I mean? Like, I felt the same pressure for the last one. Guys chose the chance at $1 million, an event that it hadn't been proven, an event that could have failed. The money could have fucking vanished. They chose to support that over ADCC. So yeah, like, I mean, this is kind of a really crucial spot in the sport where a lot of athletes need to understand we have sort of a call to arms. We're going to be more powerful together. And this will sound like some tacky speech, but really, like, We're at a moment where an absolute powerhouse of an organization has decided that now's the time to enter the sport and own it. And then we have power in numbers. And I'm never going to judge personally, even though it might look like that. There's a means to an end. I'm not going to judge personally if you're already like a big name and you get offered big money. Like if you take it, like I get it. You got to take care of yourself here, right? But as the athletes out there that aren't you, like me turning down any sort of exclusive deals, right? I am not just thinking about me, I am thinking about others here, right? So like if you want to be the best grappler in the sport and someone like the UFC offers you crazy money, just remember that your opponents aren't necessarily going to get paid very much to face you here. And there's a lot of people, we don't do it for the money, but like we've got to think of each other here because we've all been broke in this sport. Most of the people in the sport are still broke. But like if we stand strong here together and the UFC or similar organizations try to lock people into exclusive contracts, if we stand strong together, they'll be forced to give us opportunities to compete in other things that make us money, right? So like if you do sign it, that's fine. Like I won't have any judgment, but yeah, I do think you'll be on the wrong side of history. If we do look back at this moment in 5 years and we lost and we have grappling controlled by one organization, you have no leverage to negotiate. I mean, if we look at like Francis Ngannou's story and how strongly he was pushed in terms of re-signing a new contract and the difficulties there and him wanting to be paid and how ultimately he got out, he made his bag in boxing and he worked at PFL and stuff. It's like we don't want to be in a position where you're the face of a sport and you're struggling still to make money. There's no incentive for a monopoly to pay athletes more money. Your only choice will be fight or retire. And you can use the leverage of a retirement to try to get more money and boost your contract. But really, like, you have no leverage to say, well, these guys offer me this much. If you want me, pay me this much. I just think there's a lot of smart people in the sport that understand that. There's some people that just have been broke their whole lives and that's going to be too appealing to them. And again, no judgment on that. Like you got to make enough money to live. You got to take care of your family. But it is what it is. I do think I'm trying to be on the right side of history here. Like again, and I want to emphasize this. I don't care if I don't promote. This shit takes years off my life. It is so hard to organize these events. Like the stress it puts me and Seth under to try and make sure everything's perfect is insane. So like, I mean, ultimately, if the athletes are paid and someone else is running it, like I don't care. Like that, it'd almost be a relief. It'd be something off my chest to do things, the more fun things I want to do in my life. Like CJI is about athlete compensation first and putting power back in the hands of the athletes. I'm providing you an alternative to exclusive contracts. I'm providing you the information of how many people view it, and you can use that to leverage sponsorships. Again, there's not much in it for me. There's not much in it for me to do this event. I'm just trying to help out other people because when I was coming up, I would have to pay my own way, compete for free. I'd have to do all these things. Like I would say that prior to sort of Gordon, the Death Squad, and me coming up, professional grappling didn't exist. Your only career path was to open a school one day, get enough accomplishments, and then open a school. But these days, we do have real alternatives here where you could sign with Flow, you could sign with One, you could sign with the UFC, and we don't necessarily want any of them to have a stranglehold on the sport unless those contracts allow room for you to compete for other one-off big events, because then you have the power to make real money elsewhere. You also have the power to shop contracts. And again, while now people are signed to exclusive deals, if the UFC's budget's this much, and to get an Andrew Tackett, it chews up the whole thing, then that means there's no room for a Mika Galvao on the UFC's budget. There's no room for a Kate Rotolo on the UFC's budget. So, like, as fans, first and foremost, enjoy the UFC BJJ. It's a great show. Enjoy the finale. It was great. Watch their events, by all means. I know they're exciting because I made the rules. But understand that there is a lot at stake here. If you want to see the best fight the best, we need these athletes to hold the line at the negotiating table. And a lot of the times these people treat us like idiots and they think we're just going to go hook, line, and sinker into, oh, we're going to show your face at a UFC broadcast. Oh, we're going to do a whatever expo, photo signings. Ultimately that shit's meaningless. That's work. That's you working for them and them helping you. Like, it's a partnership here. But if you really want true power, you need to be able to hold the line on the exclusive part of the contracts.
Well, we do know being a promoter can sometimes be a thankless job, but from me and everyone else with a brain in the jiu-jitsu community, we appreciate you and we want you promoting for as long as you can physically make it. I do remember the time when...
Shout out to America.
Yeah, we might lose Craig here, but CJI versus ADCC did so much for the sport. It got fighters show money and more opportunity for everyone around. But I'm curious, what do you think the odds are that UFC and Craig Jones get on good terms again? Because we know that you're on good terms with Mo, despite all the things, blowing up an ADCC car and doing all these crazy things to kind of get this drama and storyline to build up what the inaugural CJI was. So do you think it's going to be a similar situation? Do you think there's kind of going back after the joke of blowing up a Dana White sex doll, or do you think there's no going back from here?
I mean, historically, I'd say like UFC are pretty strong in how they handle people, and they do take things very serious, right? But like ultimately, first and foremost, they're a very successful business. I mean, they created the MMA ecosystem. So first and foremost, business comes first for them. You know what I mean? Like, I think really smart people put aside personal differences to get to the heart of making money for themselves. But we need an opportunity where we can work together, because the growth of the sport is good for UFC BJJ. UFC BJJ is good for CJI to a degree. If the UFC are bringing eyes to grappling, those eyes are probably going to watch CJI. If they can bring new eyes just because of UFC branding, then those people are going to be interested in the sport and ultimately, hopefully, watch or buy tickets to CJI. So I think like there is a common middle ground that benefits us all. And that's really what I wanted with the UFC to begin with, is that, like, more power to you. Like, obviously, it'd be great if you could credit it and not on broadcast say, don't say the P word. You know what I mean? It'd be great if you could give some credit where credit's due. Again, I understand it from a business perspective. Like, you're boosting other people up that are below you. That's the way you see it. But, like, if we do one event a year, one single event a year, people might consider it the Super Bowl or the biggest event of the year. If the UFC BJJ athletes can go in there and get paid and they can bring eyes to themselves, it's another storyline for their career that the UFC can paint a picture with. So I think ultimately, what's good for the athletes is good for the promoter and the sport as a whole. Like without CGI, we wouldn't have had Cade Rotolo versus Andrew Tackett. With exclusive contracts, we won't have that again. And again, for me, even if I sit back on the sidelines as a fan, I'm not involved at all in the promoting business or the event business or even training or competing, I'll still enjoy watching grappling. And that's what I want to see at the end of the day, is matches like that, which have done more for the sport than any single promotion ever has. So obviously, still a big shout out and thank you to Andrew Tackett and Cade Rotolo for giving us that match. I just love the opportunity to see more matches like that.
And although you and Gordon Ryan are mortal enemies, I think he would also agree with you that exclusive contracts are not the move for jiu-jitsu athletes at this time. So before we get on to other news, like the next athlete being added to the 100K women's bracket and some other news regarding teams, let's throw it to an interview with Luke Griffith and Big Dan coming up. Currently being joined by the 2024 bronze medalist, it is Big Dan Manasoiu, and he is going to be joining CJI2. There's been so much news so far, but tell me, how are you doing? Are you currently in Austin, Texas?
Yes, I am in Austin, Texas right now, preparing for CJI and some other tournaments coming up.
Tell me about the training regimen. I know with the AIGA rule set, it's more of a dual format. So is it easier to prepare for a competition like that versus a Royal Rumble quintet where you're not going to know who your matchup is going to be?
When it comes down to CJI, I really have absolutely no idea who I'm competing against, who's competing against who, what team's going up against which one first. So you're really going into a realm of mystery when you're going to compete in that, which is fine because everybody else is operating under that same shroud of mystery of like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. it really comes down to, okay, how well prepared can I be going into this tournament? And we're all doing a really hard job. That we're all working hard every day at the school and got to bring in the best version of ourselves.
And it's such a crazy journey to where you currently are and where the sport of jiu-jitsu is in general, because now we got AIGA, a big prize payout. You also have CJI doing big prize payouts. But I remember when you were first starting, you said that you weren't expecting to make much money from competing and that it's really about marketing yourself, doing privates, BJJ fanatics. So from your perspective, would you have ever thought that you would have been in this position really fighting for big payouts from competitions?
No, I never thought that we would be fighting for these type of big payouts. Something like this is unheard of. I mean, when you were looking at other tournaments, it's like, man, you got lucky if you made like 5 grand off of an invitational or something, right? And now it's like people are walking away with 1 million in an invitational. You know, at CJI, you're going to be walking away with 200K if your team wins. So it's definitely like an amount of money that's unheard of in the sport, and it's really going to help us out. There is a lot of truth to the fact that competition isn't the best way of making money in jiu-jitsu, because there's only so much that you can do competing. But of course, everything comes down to in life is, how can I figure out to have somebody pay me? Do I do that through private lessons, through having a Patreon, through having a school? You know, it's all up to you to figure out how people to pay you. But now it's like, okay, when you go into a competition, previously winning a tournament meant just like, oh, I got a couple extra dollars now. And I was like, no, you got a good bit of money. You could do something with that. That's the down payment on a house.
Yeah, and that's a good question to ask all these guys. When it comes to the $1 million payout, how would Big Dan be sharing his share of, or be spending his share of $1 million?
How would I be spending my share? Probably not very responsibly. If you guys know anything about me, I love cars, I love guns, and I love causing trouble. So my most recent purchase was a shopping cart with a motorcycle engine in it. So if I walk away with 200 grand, I can't imagine what kind of nonsense I'm going to get myself into.
I love that. And now you are located in Texas, but you grew up in Pennsylvania, would make the treks to New York to really commit to this jiu-jitsu life. So when it comes to all the novel moments in your life, I saw you were in the UAE with Renzo Gracie. Are there ever moments where you kind of just sit back and look around and you're like, life is real and life is really freaking crazy?
I mean, every single thing I have in my life, I'm incredibly blessed over. I'm so thankful for everything that I have. I mean, I'm 23 years old now, and only 6 short years ago, I really started pushing my heart and soul into the sport. I mean, I was 17, and keep in mind that I had to do all of this on my own because my family has no money. They're first generation immigrants from Romania. You know, it's not like I had money growing up. We didn't really grow up with any of that. So everything I had to really do on my own. So when I was 17, I lived in Pennsylvania. I also kind of lived in New York, but mostly in Pennsylvania. Divorced parents, so you go between the two. And when I was in Pennsylvania, I was at a very small school in Pennsylvania, and I realized that this small school isn't where I want to be if I want to do this for a living. So I started taking a bus from Pennsylvania to New York City every day, 4 hours each way, just to be able to train with Danner. After that, moved to Puerto Rico, and then after Puerto Rico, moved to Austin. And really, when I moved to Austin, my life started to change. I mean, I was penniless the entire time from New York to um, Puerto Rico. I mean, Puerto Rico, I didn't even have a car. Craig was actually the guy who drove us to training every day, so I appreciate him for that. But we didn't have anything. I was stuck in a room 18 hours a day. You know, I slept there. I just hung out there in my room, played video games on my computer, went to training, went home, didn't have a car, didn't do anything. Sometimes Mo Jassim would give us a ride to the grocery store for us to get food. But for us younger guys, which weren't able to afford all that, it was difficult. You know, eventually, you know, now only a couple years later, I have my own house, I have my own car. I didn't have a car for the longest time. You know, I have a school now in Georgetown that I'm building up every day, and it's really, I just wish that I could tell the 17-year-old self, hey man, it's gonna be all right, you know.
I love that journey for you. And I love that there's going to be more and more opportunities, especially you're only 23 years old.
Yeah, no, I look like I'm 40, so.
No, that's not what I was going to say, but you are just massive. When did you hit your first major growth spurt?
I've been the same size since I was 16. That's really, I was, yeah. Nobody believes that. I mean, I'll show you pictures from when I was 16. I've been the same size the entire time. So.
And when did the Big Dan nickname happen? When you were 16?
Yeah, I mean, the Big Dan nickname, honestly, this isn't going to sound as fun of a story, but it was actually when I was training at Henzo's in New York. Probably like the second or third time I ever trained at the academy in New York. Dan pulls me to the side, he yanks me to the floor, and I'm like, oh shit. And he gives me like a little conversation about jujitsu and stuff. And he asked me what my name was. I told him Daniel Manasoiu. And I figured he didn't know how to say my last name. And he's just like, all right, well, you're Big Dan now. So I didn't get to choose that nickname, but here it is. So what can you do?
And now it is the nickname known across the jiu-jitsu community. Is there any
Yes.
particular matchups that you are hoping to get at CJI2?
I mean, anybody really. I'm just happy to have good competition. It's impossible to find matches these days. I'm trying to find matches, and it's just the closest thing to impossible. I think tournaments are going to be my saving grace. And at the same time, if there was somebody I want to compete against, I want to compete against the best guys on each team because the thing is, right, like there's a very real possibility that you can lose when you're in a team-based event, not because of your own actions, because of other people's actions, and vice versa, different matchups, right? So you have to go into this with the intention of being the best version of yourself. That way, you could also help your team. But if it doesn't go your way, you also want to walk out of the, hey, like my team may not have won, but I won, and here's the matches I won, and this is what I used to build my brand.
And when it comes to another teammate that is going to be involved in CJI, Helena Cravar announced as the first locked-in spot for that 4-woman 100K tournament. What was your instant reaction to this?
I mean, Helena's a wonderful girl. She's amazing. She's something special. She trains every single day. She shows up. She doesn't say a word. And the moment that Danaher does his handshake after class, she literally just walks directly off the mat. She doesn't sit and hang out. I ask her what she does for fun. She's like, I just play with my cats. I'm like, all right.
And she
She is,
bakes. I know you guys have
and she
gotten some
does
of the
bake,
goods.
yeah. So she's the MVP because of that. Because Helena um, decides to just come in every holiday with like a bunch of cookies and stuff, and it's amazing.
And luckily for you, you don't have to worry too much ever about like having to cut any serious weight, or do you have to ever?
Well, right now I'm 303 pounds, so I don't really have to cut any weight. I hope I never have to because I'm way too much of a fat ass for that. I love food. I love eating. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't party. Never done drugs in my life. Barely, never drank more than one drink at a time. So my vice is food. I like good food. And if that's the vice, then so be it.
That is the best vice to have, and you're going to have a lot of options when you're here in Vegas. My final question for you is, what is the key to victory for New Wave?
The key to victory for New Wave is for all of us to come out there and compete at the best of our potential. I mean, everybody on our team is incredible. I mean, eh, John Danaher, he's, in my opinion, is the best instructor in the world, and his students are a reflection of that. And you got all of his best guys going out there to compete for a very large sum of money. So you best believe that people are going to bring their best game, come in the best shape, and really be working to come out there and win.
CJI fans, we are being joined by Luke Griffith, and he is going to be representing Team New Wave at CJI 2. Luke, you've been keeping busy. I know you were supposed to have a match at WNO 28, but for you, what is currently your main focus for competition regimen-wise?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, like you said, the match with Felipe was going to be a big one, but since that's been canceled, I've kind of shifted my focus now completely towards CGI. I mean, it's coming up on us pretty quickly, so dedicating my focus completely to that now. I'm really excited to be a part of this, and I think it's going to be an amazing event.
Well, I guess that kind of answers my question, because I know that some articles had it as that match was canceled or that it would be postponed to a different WNO card. And I know WNO 29 is going to be in Miami, but since it sounds like you're focusing more on CJI, we're likely not seeing you on that WNO 29 card?
Yeah, there's it's definitely not out of the question for sure, but I just think with that being so close to CGI and Felipe wanting to do CGI as well, I don't know how fast his injury is going to heal. So we'll see what happens. If they can make that happen, maybe we'll see what happens. But I know they have a card in October as well. So if possible, I think it'd be a better option to do it on that October card.
Yeah, there's definitely only so much opportunity to be competing for $1 million grand total prizes. So it's nice to be able to prioritize that. Have you guys been able to build out any type of slanted walls over at Roca?
We have not, actually. We have not. So I'm sure the Kingsway gym is going to be opening soon. I don't know if Gordon plans to put anything in like that soon, but that's almost done. So hopefully we can start training for that as soon as that opens up. But obviously, with Roca not being our gym, it was tough for us to put anything else in there for us to train with.
And the Kingsway new facility looks amazing. That's so exciting that that is going to be opening up in Austin, Texas soon. Could you just talk about how important New Wave and now Kingsway has been in your progress? Obviously getting such a big win against Victor Hugo. How much do you credit that to everything that you've been learning under John Danaher and Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, I think they deserve all the credit. I mean, for someone who I've been training all my life, but only really been able to make a breakthrough since training with John and Gordon. So they definitely deserve all the credit. I mean, obviously, it takes a lot of work to put in the time on the mats, but without that instruction and guidance from people who've done it, like obviously Gordon's the best to ever do it. So to have him be able to personally give me all the advice for all the matches, and him reserving, especially now that he's taken more of a backseat to competing and focusing more on coaching, has given me a really direct coaching emphasis. So it's been amazing.
And when it comes to the room of assassins that you guys are training with, you also have the now first announced woman of the 100K tournament, Helena Cravar. So in general, how proud of you are of everything that she's accomplished, but especially now that she's locked in at that spot in what is going to be the highest paying tournament for women in jiu-jitsu history.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's incredible. It's so cool to see Helena like doing what she's doing. I mean, the fact that she's only now just turned 18 and she has accomplished what she has is absolutely incredible. I mean, most of the guys her size in the gym are too scared to train with her. She's just an absolute beast. So yeah, no, it's incredible to see. I mean, she has a great family as well. Her parents are super involved with everything. They do as much as they can to help her be successful. So it's just knowing the whole family. It's really awesome to see how successful she has been. And will continue to be. I don't see anybody giving Helena many problems in the years to come.
Yeah, every time she competes, it's definitely a family affair. Her parents are there to support her. But I know that it was also your dad that got you into jiu-jitsu. So when you were 5 years old, was it a whole lot of convincing to get you on the mats to wrestle someone else? Or were you really excited to get out there?
So I think, in the beginning, it was fun and games, and I mean, it wasn't really... when we started training, it wasn't with other kids. So, like, my dad built a gym at our house, and basically it was just my sister, myself, and my dad. So, like, at that age, also, like, my sister was beating me up. So, like, as a 5-year-old kid, you're getting beat up by your sister every day. It wasn't too much fun, So, thankfully now I'm a lot bigger than she is, so that doesn't happen anymore. But no, I think, the beginning stages, I definitely wasn't my favorite thing to do, but I'm so glad that my dad actually forced me to carry on going, because yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
And now, what is his opinion on everything going on in jiu-jitsu? Because was he like completely on board when you told him that you wanted to be a jiu-jitsu competitor full time? And was he a little bit hesitant because he wasn't sure if there was going to be opportunity like there is today?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know exactly what was going through his head, because at the time, obviously, in South Africa, there wasn't really much going on. And me and him we were sitting in a coffee shop with my grandma having coffee. And I saw like an advert post for ADCC trials. And it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. It was in Poland. And I was like, hey, Dad, like, what do you think of this? And he was like, I don't know. I don't think we're good enough. But after I saw that, I was like, I just kept like asking. I was like hammering away, like, let's just do it. Let's try it. And he was like, okay, like, fine, let's try it, And after that first time, obviously, I lost the second round. But it was kind of like a bug that bit, like both of us were like kind of excited. Okay, come, let's go home, train hard, like keep trying. And it kind of just started building from there. And yeah, no, he's been my biggest supporter. I mean, I still speak to him every single day. I mean, I've been away from home almost 4 years now, and I don't go a day without speaking to my dad. It's really awesome to be able to share, a passion that's both of us. He has other jobs that he does, but jiu-jitsu is a huge passion for him. And so for us to be able to share that bond and, passion for jiu-jitsu is really awesome.
And you said it's just 4 years now that you've been away from home. Has it really only been 4 years that you've been under Coach Don Danaher?
Yes. Yeah. So October will be 4 years.
Wow, it feels like you're such a big staple of the team. Like, I feel like you've been there forever, but I guess 4 years is kind of like when it all started.
Sometimes it feels like forever, and sometimes it feels like it's been like a week, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of weird to describe it, but yeah, it's been amazing.
What is it like for you as someone who's been competing since they were younger and participating in jiu-jitsu to see what jiu-jitsu has grown to up until this point?
Before I moved here, if you told me like, Luke, you'd be able to support yourself and like actually like have, make a living doing jiu-jitsu, I would never believe you. I mean, the fact that, and I mean, like the visa that I'm on right now, I'm only allowed to make money competing. So like, it's not like I'm doing stuff outside of jiu-jitsu to help, fund things, which is, kind of stressful to think about. But the fact is, I'm very blessed to be able to actually be able to pay everything and live my life solely based on competing in jiu-jitsu. So it's incredible to see how far the sport has come, and I'm excited to see where the next 10, 15 years is going to go. And I think it's important to have tournaments like CJI and all of these others pushing. Obviously the competition sometimes breeds a little bit of contempt, but I think it is important to have competing organizations because that is what pushes the sport forward. So yeah, I think it's amazing.
For you, there's a lot of different guys that you could potentially have a rematch with. And one of them is a guy like Nicky Rod, who you faced in an EBI format. So if you were to match up with him in any different type of format, which rule set would be your top one? And maybe you could list out like which ones are following that.
I definitely favor one long match. So the rounds for me is not my favorite. Obviously, it's exciting for fans to watch, but I feel like at high level competition, to be able to in 5 minutes take somebody down, get to good position, and then have to stand up and restart can be kind of frustrating, especially if you have guys who are a very similar skill level. So if I had to face Nicky Rod, for sure, I think a 15-minute match would, who's number one rule set, would probably be my favorite. Even though I do think in the past, most of my finishes have come within under 5 minutes. So it kind of depends. Like most guys that aren't like in that kind of top 5 to top 10, I feel like 5 minute match is fine because it's pretty easy to finish them. But as soon as you start getting into that like elite bracket of the top 10, it becomes like 5 minutes is pretty tough to finish a match. So I would probably say for Nicky Rod, I definitely would like a 15-minute match.
When it comes to the energy of the Thomas and Mack Arena come August 30th and 31st, what percentage of the audience do you think is going to be there to root for Team New Wave?
Not a very big amount, I would think, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, I think we have a lot of fans, but I think, with everything going on, I think there's also a lot of people who dislike our team very much. So I think there'll be a lot of people there to see us hoping that we're going to lose. But I'm sure there'll be some people, they're supporting us. But either way, they're paying to see us. You know what I mean? Whether they like us or they don't like us makes no difference to me. I'm out there on the mat doing what I love every day. So that's all that matters, But I do think I'm really excited for the atmosphere in the arena. Obviously, competing in Thomas and Mack in 2022 ADCC. I'm really excited. Like going out in front of thousands of people to me is like one of my favorite feelings. Like, as a kid growing up, I'd never really been like a fan of attention, but going in there, it doesn't feel like the attention's only on me, but it's just a nice atmosphere where you still have people watching you get to perform, but it's kind of an exciting feeling. So I can't wait for that.
And what is your perception of how the Royal Rumble aspect is going to go down? You don't know who is going to come next in the quintet format, and the build up to it and the walkout, I think, is something that a lot of people are looking forward to in terms of entertainment.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I think it kind of plays to my advantage pretty well. I mean, I think a lot of people put a very big amount of emphasis on trying to study everything their partner does before a match, and you can kind of get to overthinking in those situations, Whereas in this situation, you can study whoever you want, but you have no idea who's coming out and who you're actually going to be competing against. So I think just to go in there confident that no matter who comes out, your skills are what you need to rely on, and not try to figure out what your training partner is going to or your opponent's going to do, because regardless of what they try to do, you still have to implement your game. So I think that's great. Kind of hoping that I can take out like a whole team. That would be kind of sick.
That would be legendary. I'm ready to start making the bets on which fighter has the potential to take out an entire team. I made this joke already with Chris Wojcik, who recently engaged to his girlfriend, now fiance, about the exclusive contracts going around. And I first want to say congratulations to you. You had a big weekend, and now you're going to get to celebrate all summer long and in the lead up to CJI too. But what is your take on exclusive contracts within jiu-jitsu and not in a marriage sense?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think at this point in where jiu-jitsu is at, I think it could be potentially detrimental. I just don't think that there are enough people signed into one. It's not that there's one organization. So are you going to be able to fight enough times in 1 year to actually make a living? Because if you're fighting once or twice a year and you can't fight anywhere else, that's going to be pretty tough. Are you going to be able to fight new and exciting people every single time? Or are you fighting random scrubs that now this promotion has to try and find just to fill up the spots, which is going to bring the viewership down? So in my opinion, I don't think that completely exclusive contracts are the way to go just yet. But if they could fix those issues where you're having 5-6 fights a year and you're getting new opponents each time, obviously I understand rematches happen if they're exciting rematches, big names. If they could do that, then I think it would be a different story. But I don't think that's a possibility quite yet.
Is there any news coming up on that 77? I believe it's a 77 kilogram spot you guys are looking to fill.
Yeah, so I think from the last thing that we spoke about with John is that we were going to have kind of like an in-house trials, I guess, to have, I guess, Taza, Davis, Jason, and Gary. I think if Gary wanted to compete, he would get priority, obviously, because he's a senior. So I'm depending on whether he wants to do it or not. But between those other three guys, to have, I guess, like kind of a round robin tournament to see who would come out on top and get the spot. That was the last that I heard us discussing about. So I don't think anything's changed from then.
I don't know if they're going to be calling it Kingsway. I think they had already built out your guys' merchandise or everything. But how are you feeling about the squad that you have going in?
I'm feeling really, really confident. I think we have a lot of tough guys. Dorian is kind of unbeatable. I feel like at 77, he's just hard to submit. I mean, even if he's unable to get finishes, he's just so hard to hold down. He's so hard to submit. So I feel like he's a good anchor for us at 66. No matter who we get at 77, Davis is a killer, Taz is a killer, Jason is a killer, obviously, and he's still fresh in the jiu-jitsu game. So I'm really excited to see how he progresses over the next couple of months and years. Obviously, with Giancarlo, it's two-time ADCC champion. So it's couldn't feel better about that. And then Big Dan is literally the biggest human being in jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's hard to get bigger than him.
How would Luke Griffith be spending his share of that $1 million?
Well, I think especially now with the recent engagement, I think it would be a smart move to put a down payment on a house. So I think that's probably where it would be going towards.
That's so exciting. Austin is going to be the home base for a long time, you think?
I think so, yeah. So, I mean, I'm definitely, especially with the gym opening up right here, I still have at least 10, 15 years left of competing, hopefully. So, yeah, I don't anticipate myself going anywhere else. So, yeah, we'll get settled down over here.
And is there anything you have coming up in the future, seminars or, projects that you're working on that you want the fans to know about?
At the moment, sole focus is CJI right now. Unfortunately for everyone, we'll start to plan all that stuff a little bit afterwards. But yeah, right now we're focused on getting that $1 million.
Amazing. Well, we can't wait to see it. August 30th and 31st. All the action will be live and free on YouTube. Thank you so much, Luke.
Thanks, Alex.
So, Craig, we just got some information from Big Dan and Luke Griffith. How do you think this team New Wave is stacking up for CJI 2?
It's Team New Wave. It's going to be really good. Again, that's like, I mean, it's kind of like enemies coming together for the greater good here, right? Like, obviously, we had a big falling out with Gordon and John and the team, and we had a horrible split, and it was all over social media. But ultimately, in pursuit of the one thing we share in common, the love of grappling, we're able to find a middle ground and work together. And really, like, I've crossed the line many times on social media, but those boys and John were able to put that aside to participate in the event and really B team and New Wave being in this event is kind of one of the biggest rivalries in jiu-jitsu history. It's almost a blood feud. I guess it is, actually.
Yeah, and we just saw a lot of people compete at AIGA. Dorian Olivares and Big Dan as well. So when you're looking at that 66 kilogram division, what are your thoughts on Dorian Olivares being involved?
Let's get another pouch in. Dorian is as tough as nails. And what's crazy is Dorian actually beat Luke Griffith in competition. Dorian is a nightmare to train with. I think he's got some of the best potential in the world. I imagine he has a future in MMA. But yeah, I mean, that's another dude that's like, if one of these teams goes out there and sees, we're facing Dorian, he's a little fella, he's a 66er, it's like, that's bad news. That's one of the most dangerous grapplers out there, and he has an endless gas tank. So just having those three guys confirmed for the team as is, it's like, man, those three alone could be potentially many 5-man teams out there. So I think they've got a very strong team there.
And we do have some big news coming out. The third spot for that 100K women's bracket. Break the news, Craig.
Yeah, so we got Ana Vieira in there, Adolfo Vieira's sister. She's the previous ADCC champion. She might know, and I mean, I don't know in terms of like the women's jiu-jitsu community. Like, I feel like she doesn't get enough credit for the accomplishment she has. And she won the last ADCC. She beat Amanda Leve and Helena Craver. So it's like, how could we host a 145-pound tournament with Adele, Helena, and not have Ana Vieira in there? You know, like, it's like Adele's got a lot of fame, especially because she's one of those Australian underdog stories, and she got the double gold at ADCC. Helena is who Helena is, super famous. Probably her and Fiona are probably the most famous female grapplers out there, I'd say. So, like, Ana Vieira, like, it would be a disservice to the jiu-jitsu community if we didn't have her involved in this tournament.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who that last spot goes to. I was kind of hoping that it would actually be...
Who's taking the last spot? We need a sacrificial lamb, Alex.
That'd be pure content right there. I was kind of hoping that there would be a chance that it'd just be an 8-women's absolute bracket, but we have CJI 3 that we can talk about those fun things, because Paige Yvette, she's a little bit too big for 145, but there's like a lot of big girls out there too that would be pretty entertaining to watch, don't you think?
Big girls need love too. So I'm all about that. We're
muscle mommies.
We're trying to get as much women involved as possible, right? Obviously, we're trying to, and I don't mean this disrespectfully at all, but we're trying to keep this thing afloat. We're trying to build something, you know. So it's like we're going to get the women involved as much as we could. I'm even thinking we allow Gabby Garcia to pick maybe who takes that fourth spot. Let the queen of the sport choose. Fionn would have been awesome to have Fionn in this four-woman tournament. Like, she's opening a gym. I know UFC. She says man, who knows? Like, I really ultimately don't know. I think I've had discussions outside of her where it didn't seem like she could. But yeah, Fionn seems to be having a bit of a semi-retirement right now, reassessing things. So, like, good luck with her new gym. Like, guys, go visit the gym if you're over in the UK. But yeah, we're going to figure out that fourth spot. And then for CGI 3, if we still exist, inshallah, we will be featuring some of the bigger girls. Bigger girls, I mean that kindly, not that sometimes that comes across bad, but yeah, the big girls are very, very talented too, and we need to showcase their talents as well.
And we know you're currently in Istanbul, but you are going to be making a whole run, I think, from Manhattan to Miami, finishing off, and will be at WNO 29. Is that fully confirmed? Tell us a little bit about your upcoming itinerary.
Yeah, that's the plan. Me, Aaron, and Anthony, maybe Mitch too, if his therapist allows it. We're picking up a car in New York. I'll probably do a couple podcasts in New York, and then we're going to road trip it down, sort of like Hunter S. Thompson style along the East Coast. And what we're going to do is, like, I'm not doing seminars. We're just going to pick gyms. I might talk to the coach or something, and I might just show up, and I'm going to just train with you guys, answer some questions, get out of there, keep driving. Because obviously, to prepare for a guy like Gable Stevenson, that's a terrifying thing, but also it's terrifying on the promoter aspect. So, like, part of this is like, we're doing a promo tour. We need to sell the event, but at the same time, I need to train too, because you really don't have a lot of time to train when you're a promoter. It's like, it's like when jiu-jitsu guys get their black belt and they go, open a gym, it'll be an easy gig, you know? It's like, sadly, it is not. It is worse than a full-time job. So promoting and preparing for Gable Steveson, we're going to do that simultaneously with a US road trip if it doesn't break me. I'm already at rock bottom here. After a European seminar tour and Ukraine, we've never been low. We've never been lower than this. This third story window is not high enough to jump out of and do any real damage. But we're gonna have a mental reset this week, and then we're gonna kick it off again. Road to CJI.
Yay, mental reset. And I think we can foreshadow on the next episode that we'll have some pretty breaking news on Team Australasia, and then also whether or not that over 99 kilogram spot between Marcin and the Neanderthal Frederick Vosgrod will be actually fought over. So we're going to save that for next time because we already talked about a bunch of different stuff. But Craig, before I let you go, is there anything else you want to let the fans know about?
I mean, I'll just say I'm out here in Istanbul for a vacation, but as a member of the High Hairline Club, you do get a lot of judging eyes of the reasons you're in Turkey. But this is meant to be rest and relaxation, but I'm here with Mitch, so it'll probably stress my heart quite a bit.
I'm surprised he hasn't crashed this interview at all. Where is he? Sleeping?
He said he went to the gym, but I'm going to go train at 2:30. He'd rather lift. He'd do a couple curls, take a mirror selfie and get out of there, but we're going to reconnect after this.
Perfect. Well, hopefully we'll see you on the next episode of On Borrowed Time. That's Craig Jones. I'm Alex Wenling, and we'll see you guys next week.